back to my channel. So today I'm going to go through my eyeshadow palette collection. I will be decluttering a few, but it's not going to be a massive declutter. So it's going to be mostly like my current collection now, and then there's definitely some that I want to sort of cleanse out of my collection. So if you're interested, then I guess let's keep going. So I have right here, I will do it by brand, so I've got the Cosmic brushes here. I don't have the two new ones that they came out with, the Neutrals and the Cool Trodes. Potentially I will grab them. I just felt like I didn't need them at this point. So I've got Delicious Delights. I love this palette. This is, I think, out of the three that I own, I think this is definitely my favorite. It does have some issues though, I will say, just in terms of like quality wise. I think Candy Flush and Fizzy aren't the best shimmers, but everything else is beautiful. The mattes perform beautifully, and I have gone into it quite a bit, even though there's no pans. But yeah, I'm very happy with this palette. Then I've got these two. I've got the Serenity. This is the first one that I bought at the end of last year. I really enjoy this one too. This one I do feel like is obviously dark, but it's kind of different. It's a dark, different one. My black is smashing slightly, so it is making it a little bit dirty. But I pulled this from my Shop My Stash because I wanted to go into it a little bit more. And I just think some of these like brighter tones would be fun for the summer. And definitely like this green and this gold. So there's a lot of fun in this, and there's so much variety. You've also got this pop of blue as well. I just think this is a beautiful palette. And again, the formula, I haven't had any issues with the formula on this one. And then sadly, this is my least favorite. I thought this would be my absolute favorite from them. This is the Muse, and I got this when I got the Delicious Delights earlier this year, and I just feel like it was so dark. So I'm wondering if I'm gonna just enjoy it more in the winter time, because I did get it pretty much when spring started, and I think it's more of an autumn fall palette for me. So I'm excited to dip into it come September, October time. You've got these beautiful forest greens, these beautiful, you know, sort of neutrals and like taupey shades. You've got some pinks, and yeah, I think these greens are really what stands out and makes it very like interesting for me, but it's all very mid-tone, and I think that's where I struggled with it for spring. So anyway, we'll see how I feel in a few months time, but I think the quality on this one is stunning as well. So all three of these obviously are staying. And I've got three palettes from What's Up Beauty. I have the Dragon's Eye palette. I actually did get all three of these in their bundle, and I think their bundle still exists, or maybe not. But anyway, I've got the Dragon's Eye palette. This is definitely a fun palette. I think it's my favorite out of the three. I just think that the tones of these shades are a little bit more interesting than the three. So obviously you've got a lot of purples, but you do have these beautiful greens, but Scales actually flips to a purple. So it's not a typical green. It has a green, but with like a purple base. And in certain lights, it definitely flips. I mean, I'm gonna try not to swatch too much in this video. It's looking quite a bit green at the moment, but I do see that purple. I don't know if you can see it, but it's just a gorgeous, fun shade. And I've actually hit pan on Fly. I had it in my pan as eyeshadows. But yeah, I really like this palette. Then we've got the Geodes palette. This one I think is very similar to the Dragon's Eye. It's just toned down. But it gives like the same sort of vibe, but you do have this mustard, and you have more of these sort of browns over here, and this is more of your like true green. So this is actually a really pretty green. It's called Peridot, and yeah, that's just a really fun light, kind of minty green to be fair. And then I am trying to hit pan on Citrine. That's currently in my pan as eyeshadows, and then you've got all these purples. So both palettes actually have quite a lot of purples with some neutrals, which I don't mind. I think that's fun. But yeah, that's why I feel like they're somewhat similar, but just I think Geodes is a little bit lighter and toned down, and I think Dragon's Eye is a little bit like bolder and sort of more like mid-tone shades. Then we've got the Monsoon. So this one, I would say out of the three, it's my least favorite, but it is the one that I've used the least as well. So I need to put a little bit more love into it. And I do have plans to use this more this month. So yeah, again, you have like pinks and purples and greens. Like that's kind of the theme across all three of these palettes, but you do have this pop of blue, which I just don't know how to use. So I'm a little thrown off by this palette. If you didn't have that, I think it's a gorgeous palette, but yeah, that one definitely throws me off. So if anyone knows how to use this blue, let me know. But yeah, I think their quality is really fun, and I'm not getting rid of any of these right now. All right, let's get on to Odin's Eye. So this has been a long time coming. I don't have any of their new palettes. The newest palette I have is Jules and Gem, but I got this like over a year ago now. And yeah, I didn't pick up any of their Christmas like special palettes or anything, of their re-releases, even the new Solman or Solman 2 palettes. I just am not a fan of Odin's Eye. There, I said it, I'm so sorry. And I've been saying that for a while. So I will be getting rid of some of this. The Alva and these two, the Verdandi and Alva 2 Mini Ocean, I all got in a mystery box a couple years ago. I'm going to be saying goodbye to the Alva. It's just, you know, I've done a lot of use. I've used this quite a fair amount, but every time I go into it, I'm just bored. And I have these shades in my collection in palettes that I really, really enjoy, in formulas that I enjoy way more. So, you know, I've gotten my use out of it. I don't want to keep any of these shades, so I'm going to be just saying goodbye to this. It was on my chopping block regardless from my video a few months ago, and I did do a 7 days, 7 looks palette. This is one of them, and the look was fine. Like, I can do beautiful looks with this palette. I just don't like it. I don't know, it's just not my cup of tea anymore, so I'm going to be saying goodbye to this. Okay, and then these two I will be saying goodbye to them. However, I am going to be keeping the middle shades. So I'm going to be keeping these 2 shades. I am going to try to separate them because obviously they are quite a bit different, but I will be keeping those and then decluttering the palette. Same for the Verdandi. I like these 2 middle shades. I'm going to be keeping these 2 shades and then saying goodbye. I just don't need to keep these to depot them and keep them. They're not special enough. Some of them are mattes with glitter. Some of them are just boring mattes that I already have in my collection. So you can say that these 2 are going to be decluttered because they are. But yeah, I will be saving those middle shades. And then I think this one, the Jules and Gem, I think ultimately I'm going to keep it as it is. You know, I do want to kind of keep just one Odin's Eye for reference, but their shimmers are just not it. They're so dry. I don't know. I'm not their target audience. I don't know who is. I don't know what it is about them, but they don't appeal to me, like the way that they feel. And it's hard to get behind them. Like, what is this? It's not even anything. Yeah, I don't know. Do I need to keep this after swatching those? I think I will keep it, like I said, for reference, but it's just not a palette that I really enjoy. So yeah. Okay, next I've got my BH Cosmetics. Sadly, obviously, we will never really be seeing these types of palettes again. So sad, but it is what it is. So I've got the Avocado Toast. I will be keeping this one because I really do enjoy it. And I need to use it more this year. I really haven't used it, but I really love some of these real grungy greens. And then obviously you have these brighter tone greens. It's just a lot of fun, this palette. And then you have some pinks in there too, which is interesting. I've got the Blueberry Muffin, which I will also be keeping. It's a really good, you know, cool tone palette. There's nothing wrong with it. The formula still performs great. So yeah, these 2 were more of the newer ones, like the last BH Cosmetic palettes that I bought. So they're slightly newer than these other 2. So I have the Chilling in Chicago, which is the first one that I bought, I want to say 3-4 years ago now. I will be saying goodbye to this one, unfortunately, because the matte shades don't perform the same way that they used to. They blend out into nothing. And I've really, really tried. I put it on my chopping block. I've used it several times the last couple months, and it still is the case. So I'm going to be decluttering the palette. I might keep 1 or 2 of the shimmer shades. I'm not entirely sure which ones. But yeah, I might do just a dedicated video eventually, just depotting it, cleaning them out. And I do have some magnetic pans that I can use from my ColourPop pans that I did not keep. So I can just scoop these out and maybe redo them. But yeah, this one I'm going to say goodbye to, unfortunately. It's a palette that I've always loved, but it's not working. Then we got Summer in Saint-Tropez. This one is not as old as Chilling, but it is getting there. So I'm slightly concerned that these mattes are probably going to start going, but I have used this recently and they're fine. So I will be keeping it. I still love these shimmers. So this one is holding on by a thread just simply because I think the writing's on the wall where it might just be getting too old, but I do love this palette. So I'm going to be keeping these three. Okay, then I've got my ABH. So the last ABH that I bought was the Nouveau palette. I haven't bought anything else from them in terms of eyeshadow. So this one I love. It still performs great. Obviously, I'm putting some use into it. It's in my year-long project, eyeshadow project pan anyway, so I'm trying to use the shades organically, and yeah, there's a whole lot going on in my channel. But yeah, I really do think this is a good palette, so I'm going to be keeping that one. Then I've got the Norvina. I'm going to be keeping this one. This one's getting a little old, but I still love it. It's still one of my favorites. Again, I've got some pans in here. I really enjoy it every time I go into it. I used it earlier this year and it still performs great. So definitely keeping this one. And then I've got my Jackie Aina, which has always been my favorite. I don't know if it's quite my favorite anymore just because I really just don't go into these tones. So considering that that is a good chunk of the palette, you know, and it's pretty dark. I mean, I'm surprised that it was my favorite several years ago because it is pretty dark, but I still love these shades over here and these two. And again, this is also in my year-long eyeshadow project pan. So, you know, I have been dipping into it and not ignoring it. And I have a few more pans, you know, in here, and it's beautiful. And the quality on this, stunning. It's definitely a different quality to these other two, and it performs great. So obviously keeping it. Okay, two more that I'm keeping. I have two from Menagerie Cosmetics. I bought these together, was it last year or the year before? I don't quite remember. So we've got the Feral. I will say the Feral is the one I probably use the least, and it is my least favorite, but it's still, like, the quality in this is absolutely stunning. It's just, the color story scares me. I'm not gonna lie. I get confused when I look at it with the red and the yellow and then the turquoise and then all the pinks, and it's an interesting color story, and not one that really like sparks creativity for me, but the Killer Purr does. I really love this one. This is definitely my favorite out of the two, and I have done so many looks with this. I think they're like these shimmers are stunning. The mattes perform great. I definitely think Menagerie Cosmetics probably has the best formula in my collection overall because I've never had any issues. Actually, maybe this one. Maybe this matte was a little hard to blend at some point, but you can't have it all, you know? But anyway, I'm gonna keep both of these. I would love to have more from them. They just don't release too much. So anyway. All right, so now we move on to Beauty Bay. I used to have more, but sadly the Beauty Bay formula does not last in my house. It is one of the, I don't know what it is. There's certain formulas that definitely produce more mold than others. I live in a humid climate, and I do everything possible to try to preserve my palettes. And I've been spraying them with, you know, alcohol and just like sanitizing them as much as possible. But I do find that Beauty Bay formula is not lasting as long as some other ones. Like the ABH, I've never had any issues with the ABH, and they're so much older. Like there's something with certain formulas that last longer than others. And so I'm a little bit wary about buying more eyeshadow palettes from Beauty Bay, even though I love the formula. You know, I haven't bought the new palette because I just think it won't last. I had the Book of Magic, which I absolutely loved, and I had to let it go because it just got destroyed. I just have to bear that in mind when I buy certain palettes from brands, and I think Beauty Bay is one of them. Nomad Cosmetics is another one where I've had to say goodbye to all of their palettes because they all went bad on me. And some of them were just new, like I bought the Fête de Provence palette, and within, I want to say 8 months, it was already starting to get mold. And I have palettes that are old and that have never had mold. So there's just something about certain formulas, which is fine. I mean, it's not a big deal, but I don't know, I'm not a chemist, so I don't know what it is that's going on in them, but I know also it's a lot to do with the climate. So anyway, I have these palettes. They're fine for now. I have the berries. This one is in my chopping block, so I kind of need to decide today if I want to keep it or not. And I couldn't tell you because I did a fun, bright, obviously colorful pink look with it, and it was nice, But do I need to keep this palette just for these shades? I really don't know. I mean, that one I'm just gonna put to the side because I don't know. The Tiny Days I've always really liked, but I'm starting to wonder if I want to keep it. I don't know, because I don't feel like I need to anymore, because I feel like I have these shades in other palettes. This is in my pan that palette in order, so I am trying to hit pan in these, but right now I'm supposed to hit pan in this, and then I have to move on. I already have 3 pans. I don't know, there's something about it where I've always said I really, really enjoy it. It was a limited edition, but now I'm wondering if I need to keep them, because I'm wondering, well, they'll probably eventually go bad anyway, so why keep it? Like, that's the pessimist in me. They work fine now, but that's what I'm starting to wonder. But the shimmers are really beautiful, so it's kind of just, do I keep it for the shimmers? There's really only 3 shimmers. That's just something that I'm holding on to, and I have so many greens in my collection at the moment. Purple is really not an eyeshadow color that I tend to gravitate towards that much. I do like yellows, but I already have a yellow, and obviously I have so many peachy pinks like this. So this is not special, and maybe I should say goodbye. Let me think about it. Okay, so speaking of purples, obviously I do have the huge Midnight palette. So this is why I'm like, well, why do I need to keep purples? I have this enormous palette. I have so many blues and purples in here, more than I could ever need. You know, why am I bothering? I'm gonna keep this because there's nothing wrong with it. I would like to put more use into it. And then I have the Earthly, which I have used a little bit more. This is also in my pan that palette in order. I'm trying to hit pan in this in order, which is kind of mad. It just shows you like the kind of person I am. I'm just a little bit weirdo. But I think, yeah, definitely keeping these 2 because there's nothing wrong with them. I think, dare I say it, I'm gonna say goodbye to these 2 because I want to keep palettes in my collection that bring me joy or that have some use to them. And I know this isn't a project, but I kind of just want to say goodbye. I don't want to keep things that I don't need. So yeah, I'm going to say goodbye to these 2. All right, then we have Alter Ego. I have these 3. These are the only ones that I've ever tried. I would definitely buy more from Alter Ego. It's just the shipping is pretty expensive. So I've got the Shadow Kiss. This is definitely, I think, my favorite out of the 3, although I think it's the one I've used the least, because it doesn't tend to be rolled into projects, but I just love all of these shades, every single shade. I love these mattes too. I think they just are amazing. Then we've got the Canyon. This one I had in my Project Level Up, so I definitely got quite a lot of use out of it last year, and I love it. Definitely love Desert Moon. I think this is such a gorgeous shades. And then the Artemis, I would say, is my least favorite out of the 3, but again, I put a lot of attention to it because it was in my Project Level Up this year. And so yeah, I had to use all of the shades several times. I'm not going to be saying goodbye to any of these. I think if I had to, I'd probably let go of the Artemis, even though I've used so much of it, because I do think there's a lot of redundant shades in this palette. But level 3 still, so I'm keeping them. All right, then we've got 2 NARS. I've got the Afterglow palette. This one is pretty old, but it still performs great, and I'm definitely going to be keeping it, so that one is staying. And then I've got the Stargaze palette, which is a bit dark. This is one of their Christmas specials a couple of years ago. I do like this palette, but I don't go into it all that often, so I don't know, it's just one of the, I don't really go into deep shades, and it's just mostly deep shades over here. But yeah, I should play around with this a little bit more because it's expensive and I got it as a gift and I feel bad. All right, then I have 2 from Huda Beauty. I have the Mercury Retrograde palette, which I am going to be keeping. I really do love this palette. It's in my year-long project pan, so I'm trying to get as much use out of it as possible. And these shades perform great. I've had no issues with this whatsoever, so definitely keeping that. The Naughty Nude, however, I do feel like I'm getting a little worried about the shades. I've sprayed it so many times, so I do have a little bit of hard pan because I've been spraying it with some disinfectant just so that it doesn't go bad, because I'm getting a little paranoid. But they're working fine. It's just, you know, like here you have a little bit of hard pan because I sprayed it quite a bit. The mattes do have a little bit of hard pan. But it's still fine. It doesn't smell. The shades still perform beautifully. I just think it might be a palette that I have to say goodbye to, sadly, at some point, just because, not because I would want to, but then I think the formula would be going. But not right now, so I think for now I'm safe. Right, so these are all my single palettes. Basically, I only have one palette from the brand, so I can't really like show you more than that. So they're all sort of, they're little orphans, I guess, in a way. So I'm gonna move it up and we're gonna go through them. So we got Natasha Denona Retro palette. I'm obviously keeping this, it's expensive and I want to get more use out of it. It's in my project pan for eyeshadows this year, so I will be. It's the only one I've ever tried from her. I don't really think I will buy anything else in terms of eyeshadow palettes unless she comes out with an amazing color story. I've been very close to getting like the Yucca palette, but I just don't need it. So I don't know, there's something about it that kind of put me off. Anyway, so keeping that, I do have one little MAC palette here. This is the Star Sighting palette. It was a Christmas special a few years ago. I have a couple of pans. I'm wondering, do I need to keep this? I mean, I kind of like keeping it because it's the only MAC palette that I own. So it's a good one to have for reference, but at the same time, their quality is probably better than this, or maybe a little bit different these days, but I can't see myself buying a MAC palette at the moment unless they come out with something a little bit special, because the last few ones that I've seen have been very neutral, which I do like neutral palettes, but they're kind of pricey, so I don't know. I think it has to be something different for me to try something else from them. So I think I'm going to keep it for reference. And I do like this little cute palette. It's a really good travel palette too. Okay, this is a new one, so I'm not going to get rid of it. It's from Makeup Factory. It is their gold palette. They had a lot of these. It's very cute. It's like a little travel palette, and these shades are actually really pretty, and they're very soft and like buttery. So it was such a surprise. I was swatching it in store and I was like, oh yes, thank you. They kind of remind me of the ABH formula in terms of like how creamy they are, or even like Nabla formula. So I was all for it and I definitely picked it up. It's called the gold one, but I like that it's actually not super gold. It's a more neutral leaning palette, more cool tone than like bright gold, like yellowy gold. So it's definitely wearable and I really do like that. Okay, I've got Essence here. This is from The Lion King. It is the Circle of Life palette. I think they have two of them. They had more of a pinky one, and then they have this one, which is more neutral leaning. I'm keeping this. It's not super old in my collection, and actually there's a few shades that I kind of like. The formula isn't going to be great, but I don't know, I haven't played around with it enough for me to say goodbye to it, so I'm keeping it for sure. All right, then we've got my Nabla Dreamy palette here. This one is beautiful. I do want to pick up more Nabla palettes, but again, they're the type of company where I'm waiting for them to release a palette that has like a more interesting color story, because I've seen all the palettes that they've released already and I don't feel like I need to pick them up, but I love their formula. I think their formula is fantastic and they're so soft and buttery, so definitely keeping this. Am I getting rid of any of these? I don't even know. Oh, maybe I'll get rid of Juvia's Place. I might get rid of this one. So this is the Bronze Rustic. I love the shade just because it is a different type of shade. I have two pans, but I don't know if I really need to keep this. It is a good travel palette though. I have taken it on traveling with me and it really was good to have. Oh, now I'm like suffering because I don't know if I'm going to get rid of any of this. I've got the Club Nebula from Kaleidos. This was obviously the Angelica Nikovitz collab. I got it and wanted to support her when it came out. So happy that I did. Got several pans in here. So yeah, this is a beautiful, stunning palette. And Kaleidos is another one where I would definitely want to try more of their eyeshadow formula, but I'm waiting for them to release something that is exciting. And I think ever since they released this, I haven't really been excited about anything else. So I don't know what's happening with them. Okay, I only have one Urban Decay palette now. I had to get rid of my Naked palette, the original, because that went bad. But this is my palette for the year, so obviously keeping it. I'm putting a lot of effort into it, although sadly the last month or so I've used it a little bit less, but definitely having fun, as you can see. So keeping this one. This is new, although I think I might see if my mom wants this. This is the Rom and Andy. Or Rom and, I don't really know, oh, Romand. I think it's Romand. I think that's how you pronounce it. I have an eyeshadow actually that's popping out here. This palette is called the Better Than palette. It's the Mahogany Garden palette. And I wanted to try some key beauties, so I got this from Stylevana. Let me just pop that back in there. There are some somewhat pretty shades in here, but I do feel like it was kind of a letdown because I didn't realize it came with the 2 glitters. So that was kind of a bummer. They're very sheer. They're pretty though. I mean, those are pretty. And then the mattes are fine, to be fair. They're just, oops, I keep dropping it. The mattes are fine, to be fair. They're just very light, so they're not going to work on every skin tone. This might be one that I will eventually say goodbye to, but I think it's good to have as a reference because it's my only K-Beauty sort of eyeshadow palette at the moment. I would try more, but maybe just let me know which brands to try because there's so many different brands and I don't know which ones to try first. Okay, then we've got my only SheGlam. This is the Virtuous Virgo. I'm a Virgo, so I wanted to pick it up. Back when I used to buy from SheGlam. So I actually really like these greens. I'm not going to get rid of this. I don't think I'm going to get rid of any of these palettes. I'm sorry, this is so boring. I have the Revolution Dangerous in Love. This one was on my chopping block, but I did a pretty look and I am working on this shade for my Pan Those eyeshadows. And actually, I feel like the quality in this is not terrible. You know, like when you think of Makeup Revolution, some of their quality can be really, really hard or really bad or really dry. Now, don't get me wrong, there are some shades in here which is the typical Revolution formula. But then there are some other shades that I think looked very pretty on my lids, did not crease, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm actually going to keep this for now because I had a really pleasant experience with it when I used it just last month. So yeah, keeping this one. And then we've got my Sigma Corta Rosa, which has been on my chopping block for like 3 years now. This one, gosh, what do I say about this one? I'm going to keep this because I did this was in my chopping block and I did a video where I used this and I really liked the look. And so I'm just starting to wonder, well, maybe my taste had changed. Maybe I just need to play around with it a bit more. Maybe I was expecting it to be something that it's not. It has deterred me from buying anything else from Sigma though, because I don't think the formula is for me, but I don't feel like I need to let it go and say goodbye to it. Again, it's a good point of reference for me to have at least one palette for Sigma, just so I can hum and ah about if they come out with a new palette that I desperately want to buy, I can think about this one and be like, hang on a minute, do I really want this formula? Because I've been very close to buying some of their palettes, pretty much all of their palettes to be fair, because they all look so beautiful and up my alley and just like my cup of tea, but then the formula always puts me off. But I think the mattes are actually really good. It's just some of these shimmer shades that aren't very pretty. But then I went into Sun Sprite and that is really pretty. That is a really pretty gold. It's very pretty. And I've always liked Campfire. And that is a different like quality. That's like a pure sort of, that's like a thicker shade. This is more like a topper shade. I think Bella the Bull I really don't like. So it's just that the palette has some shades that are duds and some that are not. But I don't think I want to say goodbye. So yeah, we're going to go another year without me saying goodbye to this, even though maybe I should. All right, so these are the last 3 palettes that I own where I only have one of them from a brand. So I have Sample Beauty Equalizer Volume 2. This is currently in my Project Level Up. I'm not going to be getting rid of it. I really love this palette. I'm putting a lot of effort into it, working on it, and I'm having fun. So yeah, I think I would be interested in getting more from Sample Beauty, but again, they're just a brand that I haven't really seen them release anything that has been exciting recently. This is really the only palette I've ever wanted from them. So we'll have to wait and see. Okay, then I have my Yasmin palette from Myla Beauty. So I will be saying goodbye to this palette, unfortunately. I was going to use it for a 7-look 7 palette for this next round. As you can see, the shade completely shattered on me. And I think ultimately, I don't need this palette anymore. What I will be doing though is keeping the shimmers. I think maybe not this one because I don't think this is special enough, but I will be keeping these 3 and then this green down here because I think those are gorgeous. All of these mattes I have in other palettes, and I don't need to keep these because I know I won't go into it. And it's a palette that I haven't gone into in a while. Again, this is like a 3-year-old palette, so I don't think I need to keep it anymore. The brand doesn't exist, but I think I will keep these. I mean, these shimmers are stunning. Like, I'm definitely like not saying goodbye to these. This is called Aish and Sakina. These are beautiful. Like, I'm not saying goodbye to them. They're absolutely stunning. And then this green is really like grungy. It's like a chartreusey yellowy green. Very interesting, and not saying goodbye to those. But I will be saying goodbye to the actual palette itself, because I feel like, because I haven't been reaching for it naturally and organically, and because it's so old, I think it's time. And then I do have P. Louise. Now, again, this is another brand where I would be open to trying more from them, because I think the quality of this palette is really good. It's just obscenely huge, and there are so many redundant shades, but the shades that I have gone into have been absolutely stunning, and I actually really like the formula. I actually think the formula of this is really good. It's like this thick sort of, like, that's beautiful. Like, the formula of their shadows are gorgeous. And I think the mattes are fine. I mean, from what I've tried, I have not tried every single shade in here, because who would? It's just enormous. But if they had smaller palettes that with slightly different types of color stories, that would be exciting, then I would be open. But from what I've seen, from what they currently have, I don't think I'm interested in buying anything from them at the moment. But they're on my radar. I check occasionally if they have anything, but no. But yeah, I have the Blend Away. I got it in one of their budget boxes, so I didn't choose it. I had no idea what I was going to get, and I got this enormous palette, so not complaining. But I will be keeping it. Obviously, it's been fun. I had it in my Pandas eyeshadow as well, so I have played with it a little bit. All right, so this is currently my biggest collection, which is, these are all from Gloss Gods. I have an issue. Every time they release something, I have to go and hum and ah about it for like days and days and days, and so I have bought quite a lot from them, but they are a fun brand. They're not perfect. I do think their mattes are not the best, and I think other brands, like indie brands, do way better mattes than them, but I do think I stand by their color stories, but more importantly their shimmers. I really love the formula and the feel of them and how they look. So anyway, I have a lot from them. So I did pick up the Peach Pop palette. This is from their new release. They released, I think, 4 or 5 of these, all like monochromatic palettes. So I got the peachy one. Sadly, these two didn't really show up on my lids at all. These 3 were beautiful. This is such a beautiful, vibrant neon orange. So much fun, but thin. So yeah, what I said in my video is I would definitely use an eyeshadow primer, because I did not, and I feel like their mattes need something to grip onto. But sadly, this palette only has 2 shimmers. So in hindsight, I don't think I would have bought it knowing how these perform, unfortunately. But I am glad that at least, obviously, I like 3 out of the 5. So anyway, whatever. It is what it is. Then I've got the Look for Rainbows, one of my favorites from them. This is an all shimmer palette, and it's so sad. I don't think you can get this anymore, but if you can, definitely go run and buy it, because I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. You obviously have, they kind of done it in rose, so you have more of the blues and a little bit of purple. You have more purpley pink here, pinks and peaches, and then yellows and kind of a green. These 2 are slightly different. They're obviously like darker and less of those, like topper shades. Like a lot of these are real like topper shades, I would say, but still just stunning and creamy, like absolutely creamy and just out of this world gorgeous. I love their shimmer so much. But yeah, a lot of them are topper shades. If you don't like topper shades, then, maybe it's not the formula for you. And obviously, they can definitely crease a little bit more when you use topper shades. So I would say definitely priming or using like decent matte shades before you put them on is probably the best way to go. But love this palette, keeping it. I don't think I'm going to get rid of any of these, to be fair, because I'm not purposely collecting, but it seems like I am. I've got the Gallon Jupiter. This one came out late last year, and I got it, or maybe not late last year, but I got it late last year, and it's a really good, obviously, cool tone palette. You've got some really lovely like taupey shades, and like you've got like some silver. Like look at this metallic. If you ever want a silver metallic, you have it in this palette. It's just absolutely like out of this world crazy. So these are like real in your face shades. So much fun. So I'm really happy that I have that one. Then we have the Dancing in the Sky. I think this might be my favorite. Definitely the Look for Rainbows and Dancing in the Sky, but I think this is generally the one that I would say is my favorite. It looks like it's an all green palette, but a lot of these do flip. Some of them flip to purple. Some are just obviously more like yellowy green, like chartreusey green. You've got like a true sort of minty green up here. And some of them again are more of your foiled or your topper shades. So you have like a variety of different like tones in here too. It's just so much fun. Like that's a thicker one. This is more of a topper. So you just have like different types of shades within the palette. Oh my God. I mean, please, come on. Like, look at that. Look at that. I mean, how could you not? How could you not? Sadly, they don't have this one. I think it really is the best one that they've ever released. And I don't know why they release such amazing palettes and then they get rid of them. That is really frustrating to me because I would want everybody to be able to have this palette. Okay, then we've got the Gal on Venus. This one is a more recent purchase, although it did come out obviously when they came out with the Gal on Jupiter, and they also have a Gal on Mars, but it's just discontinued. I never picked it up, which is sad because actually, you know, the collector in me would want to have all three now that I have the two of them. This one, more recent purchase of mine, and super fun. I was not going to buy this because it's obviously so warm tone, a lot of reds, a lot of oranges, which are not generally my vibe, but these are just kind of amazing. And I've gone into it quite a bit now. And you know, you can see this one's more flaky. This one is a duochrome, and this one's just a stunning metallic. Like these are like stunning. I don't know, this duochrome didn't like swatch too well, but look at this. I mean, this is kind of crazy. Crazy. And these are not like €100 palettes. These are like 30 to 40 euro palettes. So I don't know. I can't justify spending the money on Natasha Denona anymore, spending the money on Pat McGrath, which I have never done, but I just don't see how I could, knowing that I can get these shades somewhere. So I think as I'm speaking, I think this one is still on the website, unless they've finally sold out, but I think this one was still available. Okay, then I have the new neutrals. I think this was the first one that I bought, but I ended up giving my original palette to my mother. So I re-bought this earlier or late last year. I can't remember the timing. So I've only had this like a good like 7 months now at this point. But I did originally buy it before then. But yeah, love this palette. I think it's absolutely stunning. It's a neutral palette with a twist because, you know, you do actually have some shades in here that are really fun and not so neutral, or they're neutral, but you know, you wouldn't kind of expect them to be in here. So anyway, I love this. You can see this beautiful taupey one. This one's got like a dark base, but it has like a peachy sort of flip. This is just pure metallic, and then this one is just like it's just beautiful. It's beautiful, beautiful. I just always found this really fun. You can see this is green and orange. I don't know. I think their palettes are fun. All right, and then they came out with the Let's Get Nude earlier this year. I was excited to get this, but I have to say I was disappointed in the mattes in this one. I don't think they performed very well. But the shimmer is absolutely stunning. But yeah, some of these mattes were a little lackluster. So again, like I said, I don't think you should buy them and expect the best quality from their mattes. You might have to work a little bit more with the mattes, but you know, I've showed you the shimmers. Like the shimmers are stunning. Vintage Glam they don't have anymore, but this is another beautiful one. And I actually have never had any issues with the mattes in this one. So I think the mattes perform really nicely in this one. I haven't had anything wrong with them. And again, these shimmers, some of them are actually, I don't think there's any toppers in here. These are all like thick metallic shades, which has been a lot of fun to use in this palette. Just like real like thick, gorgeous. I mean, look at that, it's so pretty. Oh my gosh, this is stunning. I always said that this would be a really fun wedding palette. Now, I know it's a little bit out there, but I think you could do a gorgeous wedding look with this. It's just so glam and stunning and beautiful. All right, and then I've got What's Your Power? This was the second one that I ever bought from them. I got the bundle. This is a lot of fun. I think these mats are decent. They're pastel shades, so I wasn't expecting them to work amazingly well, and I think they're fine for what they are. Again, the shimmers in here are absolutely stunning. So I'm not going to swatch everything because my arm is getting all glittery, but this is a gorgeous palette too. If you want me to rank all of my gloss gods, let me know, because obviously I have so many now. The Color of Rain, this one is a recent one, so I just bought these two together, so I really only have this for like a week as I'm filming this, and this is beautiful. So I haven't played around with it too much. This came out last year. I really wanted it for my birthday, but then I was like, I'm not so sure, because it was out of stock and then it came back in stock, and I was like, I'm not so sure. And then it does have this black here, which I'm not a huge fan of black shades. I just don't use them all that often, but I haven't played around with the black and then layering these on top of it, which I think is ultimately what you're supposed to do. And I can't wait to do that. So yeah, these are absolutely stunning. So if you want like a dedicated video on this, let me know, because I would be all for it, because I haven't used all the shades yet. All right, and then we've got my ColourPop. So I depotted almost my entire ColourPop collection into this singles palette here with the multiple layers, but I did end up keeping 3 palettes in their like original packaging. So I have the California Love, and this one still performs great. I've always loved this color story. I might depot this shade and put a different shade in there, just because this is really mid-tone, so it might be really fun to put a lighter shade in there, like a lighter shimmer for like an inner corner, because this is a pretty inner corner, but it's still a little deeper than I would expect for the inner corner. But yeah, I really love this palette. It's not a palette that I've really seen people talk about all that much, but I think it generally was a really good quality from them. And then we've got this one. This is the Hocus Pocus 2. So I didn't get the original or the second one, but I did end up getting the third release of obviously Hocus Pocus. And this is my only ColourPop palette where I have the bigger pans as well. I think the formula is slightly different on these, but still good. And I think this is a really versatile palette. You'd think, oh, it screams Halloween, obviously, with the purple, the green, and the orange, but I feel like you can use this palette year long, because there's this lighter row, and then you can dip into the darker ones to like add depth and stuff, and it's just a lot of fun. So actually I've had a lot of fun with this palette, not just for the full time. And then I have the Aurora Struck. This one is definitely one where I have debated if I really need to keep it. I could depot it like I have the rest and get rid of a lot of the dud shades, because I do think there are some dud shades in this palette, which has definitely put me off jumping back into it. Also, I do find the majority of the palette dark. Like, you have these 2 rows, which I think are beautiful. I'm not opposed to having depth in palettes, because I think you need that when you do an eyeshadow look. But it's 3 rows of depth, and I don't think we need that. And it would have been nice to have like some brighter, like the Aurora lights, just like on here, it would have been nice to have maybe some brighter pinks, some more vibrant green, because the only vibrant green we have is Arctic Fox, which is fine, it's a mint, but you could do something a little bit more vibrant and not have all of this depth. Like, there's a lot of dark shimmers in here, and I don't like dark shimmers, so it's not a... I'm trying to talk myself into not getting rid of it. I don't want to get rid of it, but it might, I think I might have to depot it, put it in here, and say goodbye to a lot of these shades that I don't need. I'm not ready to do that yet. And then if you didn't watch my like depotting video, I do have a lot of my 9 pans in here, my original. Like, I have the Blue Moon, I have the Honey palette, the Mint to Be, the Just My Luck, and then some other random neutrals there. And then I have the Main Squeeze in here. I think I have some other ones like the, I don't know, I can't think right now what I have, but you can watch that video. And then I have this one too with all my purples. So tons here. I didn't like get rid of any of my ColourPop palettes really. I did get rid of a lot of shades though. So yeah, they're all in here. I'm keeping them. But yeah, this is what I have left of ColourPop. All right, and then we've got 3 palettes from Glam Shop. I don't think I'm going to get rid of any of these. I've got the Sorbeti. I got them all in a bundle. They don't have these anymore, unfortunately, but they are beautiful. I wouldn't say that they're the same quality as Gloss Gods, but if you like Gloss Gods, I think you'll like Glam Shop. And if you like Glam Shop, I think you'll like Gloss Gods. What I will say is Glam Shop does way better mattes than Gloss Gods, so I'll give them that. But yeah, they do really stunning shimmers too, to be fair. And obviously they're just another indie brand. And yeah, I mean, I can't fault them. I think the reason I haven't bought more from them is just I don't think that their color stories have spoken to me as much as Gloss Gods. I've got this one, which somebody corrected me how to say this, and then I can't recall, so I'm sorry, I won't say it. But I've got this one here. This is really pretty as well. I have no issues with any of these palettes. They're just stunning, and it's just always fun to have them. And then you have this one as well. This one's got a little bit more mattes than shimmer. It's a little bit different. It's more of your everyday wear, but again, this is like a neutral with a twist, because these are definitely like different types of shades, but absolutely stunning. And then you have like your normal shades if you want to do like an everyday look. So this is definitely more wearable than the rest, but I don't mind. I can get away with it. All right, the last 2 palettes I have in my collection, I think I've gone through everything. So if I haven't, and I've forgotten something, then just scream at the monitor and write a comment if you want. But these are, I think, are the last 2 that I have in my collection. I've got Luna Beauty, Moon Shroom. I did buy these recently in the last 3 months, so I'm not going to be getting rid of them. It's my first time trying Luna Beauty as well. I do like the formula. It's not what I expected from Luna Beauty, but that is not to say I don't enjoy it. So really like these 2. The Nude Prism I'm trying to use a little bit more this month, so I don't have as much to say about it as the Moon Shroom in terms of the wearability of it. But yeah, I mean, I feel like they're so beautiful. I definitely want to try Ensley Rain, but they're so expensive. But those are ones that I definitely want to pick up next. In terms of like indie, I'm definitely veering more and more so now into indie palettes and away from mainstream brands in terms of eyeshadow, because I do feel like the indie quality is for me. Like I really, really enjoy it. But anyway, all right, so I know we didn't do a huge, massive declutter, and if that is something you're looking for, then obviously, there's so many other people who just get rid of massive amount of palettes, but I generally like the palettes that I have in my collection, or I try to keep it that way, and I'm not just gonna get rid of something to get rid of something to satisfy anyone who wants me to do that, because this is my collection and I enjoy it. So these are the palettes I'm going to be saying goodbye to. I actually am a bit surprised by the Techni Days, but I do feel like it's a good decision to do that. I will keep it around because I need to speak about it when I do my next Pan That Palette in Order video. But yeah, I think this one definitely say goodbye to. The berries as well, it's kind of a done deal. These 2 I will save the middle shades, and I also save some of the shimmers from the Yasmin, and then maybe the Chilling in Chicago, who knows. But yeah, these are the only ones I'm saying goodbye to. I think that's a good thing. I mean, I know I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes, but if I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes that I enjoy and I like, that's better than having a lot that I don't enjoy. So I think I'm doing a good job purging and figuring out what I like, and I did that chopping lot video, and I definitely changed my mind about some palettes. So there would have been more palettes on here, but because I did that video and I tested them out, they actually got saved. So I don't know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.